I have Major Mohammed Ali Shah who's joining us on the broadcast to provide more perspective on this. Major Shah, now this is, like I was saying, the 6th round of talks that's happening. Do you think this could finally be the talks where the negotiations where both sides come to an agreement, or do you think that the Russian offensive is still going to continue?
I hope it comes to an end with this talk. I really hope. But if you ask me deep down my heart, I know for a fact that it would not come to an end over here, because both the parties are adamant. President Vladimir Putin is very stern about what his demands are, and President Zelensky is also very sure, very clear, that they are going to fight till the last man, last bullet, till the end. So it is going to prolong the hereafter. And what my greatest fear is, if it prolongs, other nations would join in slowly and gradually. And when other nations join in, I did not say, you know very well. I'm not hinting, I'm saying it directly. It is going to, it could turn out to be a world war thereafter. And you know, one more thing, I'm beginning to learn. See, like Russia already had, we have fire security drills, right? In case of fire, what would we do? We'll move out, we will evacuate, we will. Similarly, Russia is already planning. They have been doing drills, and many of their top brass is living in anti-nuclear bunkers.
Speaking of nuclear bunkers, Shah, you've correctly pointed out that the nuclear offensive that Russia seems to be planning is indeed scary. You know, for example, Ukraine has said that Russia is in control, Russian forces are in control of Chernobyl. And they have said that, you know, Ukraine officials and the people who are working in the nuclear plant want to go there for, in fact, maintaining the nuclear plant. But then again, Russia not allowing it. Still continuing their attack on several of the nuclear plants in Ukraine. Now, this doesn't seem like the action that a country would take if they are ready for talks, if they are ready to settle. Now, what do you think would then come out of these particular talks?
You know, even when the talks happen, even when the peace talk happened, now there are reports that the peace negotiators, they were being poisoned. That is ridiculous. In the army, we follow one principle, that even if you are in war zone, even if you are under action, the moment you see a white flag, you cease firing at that time. It could be anything. It could be an emergency. It could be... I'll tell you a small little incident. In the 1971 war, you know, my ancestors fought in the First World War, Second World War. My father fought in the 1971 war. In the 1971 war, my father was in a post called Longewala. You have seen the movie Border. Well, he was in a post called Longewala, and they were 3 khaki-clad soldiers who appeared from the darkness. And they were about to shoot them. They took action. They were ready to shoot them, and they almost shot them by a nick of a second. The khaki uniform is the enemy side, the Pakistani side, right? So immediately those 3 soldiers shouted out, "Don't shoot, don't shoot! We are Bangla soldiers. We are Bengali officers." And they didn't shoot. And yes, those were the Bengali officers.
Right.
So when peace negotiations happen, one has to take it very, very seriously. Now, Roman Abramovich and the Ukrainian negotiators, including the Crimean Tatar, the lawmaker Rustam Umerov, since their situation has improved, they all fell sick. But there are allegations that they were all poisoned. Now, when peace negotiations are happening, when you are actually trying to poison the peace negotiators...
Right, and Major Shah, now Erdogan is now mediating this, but when we talk about the United States, Joe Biden, in fact, has been very aggressive towards his remarks made against Vladimir Putin. Now, President Joe Biden has, in fact, said that he is not walking anything back after his weekend remarks that Russian President Vladimir Putin cannot remain in power. And he's also called Putin a butcher, he's also called him a tyrant, a war criminal, although Biden insisted that he's not calling for the regime change in Moscow. Now, he said, and I quote, "I was expecting the moral outrage that I felt towards this man," he said. Now, he's also added that I wasn't articulating a policy change. Now, Joe Biden said that he was not concerned that his comments would escalate tensions over the war in Ukraine. However, Macron then warns that there will be an escalation, a verbal escalation as he calls it. Now, Biden also said that this is just stating a simple fact that this kind of behavior is totally unacceptable. Right, Major Shah, now Biden, again, the role he is playing here is taking the verbal offensive, as Macron calls it, the verbal escalation that's happening between the United States and Moscow. Now, what is that going to lead to, and how is that helping?
Well, it's not helping in any way. It's only causing damage. And whatever they are talks of peace, negotiation, and this is further provoking the Russians. And this will not help. Let me tell you, President Zelensky has said, he spoke to the Chancellor of Germany yesterday, and he told him that it's okay, let's continue mounting up the pressure on Russia, continue with the sanctions. America has been trying that for a long time.
Right.
Not happening, not working. It's rather provoking Russia on the other hand. So it's very important to also identify, to understand the psychology of the person who is on the offensive. If you genuinely want peace, it can be prevailed. It's not impossible.
Right.
Provided we really ask ourselves, do we really want peace? Like the way India wants peace. India wants to be a peace broker. India is not. On the contrary, US is trying to provoke India to join in. How will that help?
Right. Right. Like you said, the US then provoking, going on the offensive there verbally, but not sending enough troops to Ukraine to fight Russia. And saying that they want to apologize for the statements made. Do you think this is just a show to be tough? Because again, Zelensky saying that the NATO is just not ready to accept Ukraine either. And there's no place for Ukraine to go now. But then Biden showing that US is ready to defend Ukraine, but there's nothing being done after that.
Oh, most certainly, most certainly. You even see the past, you see the history. US has had a history of this. They are total of 195 countries in the whole world. 193 are recognized by the UN. Out of these 193 countries, 84 countries have been invaded by US. Out of these 193 countries, 191 countries have seen a military action by US also. Which means out of these 84, the remaining I'm talking about, including India for that matter, they have seen a military action in the sense that either partnering with the US military, in the year 2016, they had formed an agreement with US to be a very firm military partner with them. We are also part of the Quad, Australia, Japan, India. And now China also taking advantage of that fact. Solomon Islands, which is just 2,000 kilometers from Australia. Solomon Islands had a pact with Australia in the year 2018 because Solomon Islands are strategically located in the Pacific Ocean, and there are a lot of cases of pirates over there, of robbing, of ships being hijacked, of cargo, there are a lot of issues, security issues there. So 2018 they came in a pact with Australia that you could provide police support, military support, civilian aid. But now China is actually secretly in talks with Solomon Islands.
Right. We're getting some breaking news, in fact, Major Shah. Now, what we're learning is that according to the Ukrainian media, Ukraine has shot down 17 aerial targets, and the Ukraine armed forces have reported that they've destroyed 8 planes, 4 UAVs and 3 helicopters and 2 missiles. Now, like you were saying, Ukraine now, in fact, they have been trying to defend themselves as best as possible with the military aid being provided from the other nations. Now, Major Shah, final thoughts from you on this particular thing. Like you said, countries sending in their arms actually helps. As you can see, Ukrainian forces have shot on 17 Russian aerial targets. Now, that is a good thing.
Oh, well, you can see it in 2 ways. One is countries sending aid to Ukraine, and Ukraine fighting back, good thing, yes, most certainly. Other way is, you are adding fuel to the fire. Right now, Ukraine actually, if you see it the other way also, Ukraine doesn't need arms, they need talks. They need to be, peace has to be brought in by any cost. Peace will not come in by provoking Russia and here encouraging Ukraine to fight further and being a cheerleader and giving them arms to fight. And yes, when both the parties, they claim they have shot down so many tanks, so many vehicles, so many soldiers. Ukraine has shot down 5 general officers, 5 major generals of the Russian army, and it's not a propaganda, it's not information or psychological warfare. Russia has agreed to it. Now, when you shoot so many people down, the other way of looking at it is, okay, How many children have you made orphans? How many young girls have you made widows? How many parents have lost their children, their sons? How many mothers have lost their sons? I mean, there is devastation, destruction. So instead of supporting, and there are few countries who do not have an army, which is not a good thing. I'm not advocating that. But because they are peace-loving countries, they're small nations, all right. They're small nations, but they do not have the concept of an army because they are so peace-loving. So yes, we should have an army. We should protect our borders. Why is India's armed forces known as the defense forces? I come from the family of defense forces, not the offensive forces. So we are meant to defend our motherland. Even in martial arts, when we learn martial arts, it's to self-defense, right? So yeah, I agree. Ukraine is defending themselves, yes, and they're defending themselves very well. I really salute their courage and their spirit of fighting. But then, if the Western powers want, they can bring in peace through talks. They can.
Major Shah.
Not help.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your thoughts with us and your insights on the war that's happening between Ukraine and Russia.